Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Tom Keck from CNY Solidarity Coalition. We're excited to be hosting this forum today. Let me give a shout out to all the folks who worked to help make this happen, mostly the folks on the CNY Solidarity Coordinating Committee, and especially Elaine Denton, I do believe. So please come on in, have a seat, join us. As you file in, note that there's a sign-up sheet in the back, which we encourage you to sign in. There's also some flyers in the back, which we encourage you to take and post in public places. The flyers are focused on the upcoming June primary election, which is June 27th. We're excited to be hosting this forum, and we've got a great group of candidates here to talk with us. But there are some other, we weren't able to fit, there's a lot of primaries and a lot of different candidates running. We weren't able to fit everything into one 2-hour forum. So there's also a Democratic primary for Syracuse City School Board, which we encourage folks to check out. As well as for Common Council Districts 1 and 4. So we won't be hearing from those candidates today, but there's some flyers on the table outside that list all of the candidates for all of those races. So we encourage you to check that out. Let me start by acknowledging that we are on the ancestral lands of the Onondaga Nation here. So we always like to stop for a moment and acknowledge that. So we are going to proceed as follows. We're going to invite the candidates up one race at a time. I'm going to ask a couple questions. The first one is basically just an invitation to make an opening statement, and the candidates will have 3 minutes for that. And then the subsequent questions, they'll have 2 minutes to answer each of those. For each race, I'm going to start with some questions that our members have submitted in advance. And then we're going to try to keep us on schedule, but then hopefully for each of the 3 races, we'll have time for a couple questions from the audience as well. So be prepared. We also have some cards on the back table. If you have a question and we don't get to you, fill it out on the card and give it to Elaine. Yeah, thank you, Elaine. And we'll try to get answers to those questions subsequent to the event for you. We are recording this event and live streaming it on Facebook, so be aware that everything's public here, so be aware of that. So we're going to start with Onondaga County District, the District 15 race. So please join me in welcoming Tim Rudd and Mo Brown. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Mo. So the first question, and we're going to alternate the order that the candidates respond in. We're going to let Tim go first on this first one. And the first question is just, please introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for county legislature. And I'm going to pass this mic down the table.
Hi, my name's Tim Rudd. I ran for the 15th district in 2015 against Ryan McMahon. And I ran on transparency and accountability and process and all of that, and I lost. But it was a good fight, and then I eventually got elected to the city council in 2017, and I was on the council for 3 years. And I was the finance chair until the budget director retired, and then I took over and became the budget director for the city and worked for the mayor. I'm from Syracuse, so born and raised. Went to city schools my whole life, graduated from Henniger, was able to go to Syracuse University because of the Syracuse Challenge at that time, which became Say Yes. So I understand firsthand the importance of making pathways for people to be able to grow and thrive in this community. From there, I actually kind of like taught in city schools, subbing, and traveled a bit before I went to graduate school. I got an MPA at the Maxwell School. And with a focus in state and local finance, because I really thought the intersection of finance and policy is where a lot of influence lies. And my interest in government has always been that there's a lot of things we can do together that we can't do alone. And I've taken it very seriously to build my skills and capacities to be able to do those things that we should be doing together that we can't do alone. After graduate school, I went to New York City and I worked in the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget in the Bloomberg administration for 3 years. Then I actually moved home, bought my house that I have fixed up for a dream job as the assistant budget director in the school district, which turned out to be a nightmare job that I did not like and I did not stay in. After 3 months, I left, and within a month, I was working at MDRC back in New York City, which is a social policy research group that was created in the 70s by the Ford Foundation to evaluate the poverty programs of the 60s. And my role was they do random assignment studies of all types of innovations that are supposed to help low-income people. And my role was to do benefit cost analysis. So looking at how much things cost, how it would be different with different people in different places at a different scale, how that compares to the economic benefits. I got to work on a bunch of cool projects. I did that 3.5 years in New York, 3.5 years remotely from Syracuse. So 7 total. I learned that working remote gets old eventually, before most people did. And yeah, the city council stuff, I got 1 minute left. Wow, I'm doing good. So I live on the south side on Glenwood Ave, right next to Elmwood Park. I basically have like a waterfall in my backyard, so I think I have the coolest house in the city. I've done a lot to make my block better. There have probably been about 7 demolitions within 1 block of my house, try to make the spaces green, give people side yards. I have 1 side yard that's my family's personal garden that we invest a lot of our time and energy into. And we don't have a TV, so it gives my kids something to do. And then we go to the park every chance we get, and we try to make the park clean and safe and vibrant. And basically my whole heart is in Syracuse. I do all I can to make it as good a place as I can. There are no simple answers. We have serious issues. I try to be thoughtful all the time, and I try to be serious, and I try to be passionate and do my best. And that's what I'll do in the county. I'm going to work with people, and I'm going to get things done.
Thanks, Tim.
Hello? Okay. I never know with the mics. Good afternoon. I want to thank the coalition, CNY Solidarity Coalition, for putting this on because, we need to have these conversations as the community. Also want to thank you all for coming out. It's very hot, so you all, brave the weather to get out here. I appreciate you all, caring about what's going on. I'm going to introduce myself and then tell you a little about why I'm hoping to serve this community in the 15th District. So for starters, my name is Maurice Brown. I think that housing, healthcare, and education are human rights, and I think a government has a duty to protect those rights for every child, every person in our community, and that's what I want to fight to do. About me, I served in the Army. I was a military police officer, deployed twice. I was also the regional director for the Work and Families Party in this area, so I've worked in the political arena a little bit, and currently I work at OCC as a student advisor. I'm a member of NYSET, Teachers Union. They endorsed our campaign, and the other union, I'm the union candidate because 1199 also endorsed our campaign because they know my work. I'm going to work as hard as possible for this community. Specifically, I want to make some real changes in this community. I can talk at length about all of them, but the biggest 2 that I'm going to be focused on are transportation and housing. Partially because they're so important, but also because some things have happened that have made it possible so that we can make some real progress in those areas, and I want to capitalize on that movement at the state level and the federal level. For transportation, I would like light rail. I want to be very clear, light rail is what we should be aiming for. However, the BRT project that's in process, I think we need to support it, and then eventually I do think we need to expand it, and it should be countywide. We need a bus rapid transit system. Missing your bus should not mean you have to miss the whole day of work. An efficient transportation system will allow you to get to work, but you can also stop and pick up your medication. You can also drop your kids at childcare. We deserve a bus system that's efficient. As far as housing, I want to invest in low-income and affordable housing. We obviously need to protect renters, but we need to work to make home ownership an attainable goal for anybody who wants to achieve it in this community. I think it's possible, and I'm going to fight so that we can all achieve that. I'll speak on specifics, but I did get the clock. So I'm going to keep my story short and just say that, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you all today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom. So Mo already touched on this a little bit, but our first question, again, so we have several questions submitted in advance by our members. We're going to start with those, and then we're going to invite some questions from the audience. So our first question is about housing, and we'll start with Mo on this one. So what will you do to increase healthy and affordable housing options in Onondaga County?
Thank you. That's a good question. Whoever submitted that, that's awesome. So there's a couple things we can do as far as housing right now. So for starters, we need to take serious steps to protect renters in our community. We're just coming out of a pandemic. There are literally days. There was a day last week where you couldn't breathe outside, and we're evicting people for non-payment. Like, we can't be kicking folks out on the street. We have to take steps to work and help people. So whether that looks like, tax credits for landlords, or whether that looks like, working individually with specific renters, whatever that is, we need to be working towards that. I also think we need to be promoting more mixed-use projects. So we do a lot of student housing, especially in this part of the community. I'm not against student housing. I think more housing is always better. However, it can't only be student housing. We need low-income housing. We need affordable housing. We need to diversify our housing stock. It can't just be all student housing along East Genesee Street. We need more for this community. So those are the things that I want to prioritize. And then the last thing, I'll talk about it a little bit. I wish I had time to just talk about this specifically, but there's federal money available for getting lead pipes out of homes. I think we need to seriously invest in that. I think all levels of government should be looking at it. I was canvassing in the Valley the other day, and someone told me an adult tested positive for lead because they drank it. And we should not have lead in our drinking water. We can do better than that, and we will, and that's what I'm going to fight to do.
Thanks. Tim.
So I am a landlord. I've lived in my house for 13 years, and my house is behind a house. So after 5 years, I bought the house from the landlord in front of me, and I've done everything I can to improve that house. A couple years later, I bought another, what I would call slumlord property, and I fixed it and rent to people in the neighborhood. And I've done that 4 times on my block. It's a lot of work. It is not a lot of money, and I do it because I want my block to be stable and to thrive. And we live in a credit-based money system. The banks inject the money. The city just had a housing study that we paid for with some fancy consultants. One of the takeaways I took was that they say the GDP of Syracuse is basically $3.3 billion, and the money required to fix all the housing in the city of Syracuse is $3.7 billion. Okay, so we have a massive problem in housing, and it didn't start overnight. It's been for 50 years. And the main reason is that you're supposed to dedicate 1/3 of your income to housing if you're being responsible with your budget. And there's lots of people in this community who 1/3 of their income doesn't support a housing unit. So we have a number of housing units that have been divested over time, and that creates a big problem. And it takes real work. We need investment. So I'm pro total development downtown. I think we need thousands more people with Micron happening. We need a disproportionate share of the development to happen in the city, really in the urban core, so that University Ave. We have this weird thing here where we talk about student housing. We need housing, okay? So we need density and vitality, and those are going to be expensive projects where they're going to spend $90 million making $350,000 units that are going to have relatively high rent, but we need more people. And that's the only way we're going to avoid a bigger housing crisis. If we don't build more units, it's going to put pressure on all the other houses to be flipped, and that will actually create the problem of displacement. So we need to be thoughtful. It's not simple. It takes hard work. We need more people. We used to have 80,000 more people. We can have many thousands more people. That's the only way we're ever going to have the strength of community to actually deal with the concentrated poverty that we have.
Great. Thanks, Tim. You can keep the mic down there. We're going to start with you on the next one. Next question is, what solutions do you advocate to reduce poverty within Onondaga County?
Well, we need more economic activity, period. That shows our pie is too small. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough people making income. So we need more people living in Syracuse who have money to spend. I really believe if you get the density downtown, that will create investment opportunities in the inner ring neighborhood, which has a lot of emptiness. I can speak to that personally. The emptiness is sad. That's why it's sad, because it's empty. The investment in the core and in the inner ring will create economic opportunities for the people who are already here, and that's the only way we're going to address the poverty. I do think there's room for the government to play a role to get people into homes. One of the things I talk about is a home ownership program for local home buyers. So target people who are on the cusp of being able to buy a home, give them a 10% credit up to the first $150,000. That would be $15,000 to the closing costs and down payment of a home. It's a good thing to do right now because we have lower than average house prices, and with all the Micron stuff, we may very quickly have higher than average prices. Really, the building of the equity in the home is the main way that people become middle class and can afford to invest in themselves and their community. I understand the issue of poverty from growing up here. I know what it's like to go to a high school where it's 700 people start and 350 finish, and you kind of wonder where the other, there's a real problem, and we've had that for many years. And there's no simple answer, but I really do believe fundamentally in people. I think that when you work with people and you empower them to make good choices, there are people who haven't made the best choice to date. The government has a role to offer an opportunity to make a new choice. And I think that's what we need to do consistently, talk about people's needs to make a good choice for themselves and for their family and build a pathway that is effective. I learned to do a lot of that at MDRC, where we evaluated all kinds of innovations to improve people's lives, where people often think they're doing something great, and often it turns out that the impact is less than what people think. Changing people's lives is hard to do. I think the government has an important role to play, and I try to be thoughtful about the best ways to do that.
Okay. So this question is, tough for me. So I've always been a black man. I will never run from that. But one identity that I really do hold close to my heart is that I grew up poor. I grew up, lower class, and I love it. I think it made me who I am today. I think that we need to invest in transportation and housing. I'm going to get redundant. You guys are going to get tired of hearing this from me, but I really mean it. So if you look at social mobility, someone's ability to go from lower class to middle class or middle class to upper class, there's a direct causation between that and how long their commute is. If we can make it easier for people to get to work by investing in a serious busing system, it'll make it a lot easier for people to get to jobs. So with the Micron project coming in, we actually have a really unique opportunity in workforce development that I think we should take advantage of. So I work at OCC. OCC is going to have a program for young people with an associate's degree. You can get your associates, do a one-year certificate program, and then you can have a $70,000 job. That's huge. We need to make that opportunity available for all our young people, not just the young people who can afford cars. We need to make that something that everyone can take advantage of. And then last, I'm going to talk about housing. We have to protect our housing stock. If folks are, too busy wondering, where they're going to sleep that night, it's really hard to look for a job. It's really hard to do anything, if we're being perfectly honest. So I think we need serious investments in those things, and that's what I'm going to fight for. Tom.
Thanks, Mo. You can keep it. So our next question is about the proposed $85 million aquarium. And so the question is, A, do you support it? And if so, why? And if not, why not? And if not, do you have alternate proposals for the $85 million? And we'll start with Mo.
Yeah, so I want to be really clear when I say this. I am as against the aquarium project as one could be. I think it's a bad decision, and for a bunch of reasons. So I actually just wrote a letter about this that I've promoted, so I can honestly just read verbatim the talking points. But for starters, it's a bad investment. If you look around the country, aquariums don't normally turn a profit without federal and state subsidies. Expecting our state and federal government to do that when we can barely afford fund our public schools consistently, that's just not smart business. So I don't think that we should just do a bad business thing just for business sake. But the biggest reason that I'm against it is because we have so many other priorities within this community. If you show me your budget, I don't care if you're a municipality, if you're a business, if you're a person, if you show me your budget, I can tell you what your priorities are. Budgets are moral documents. Our county's priority is not our people, full stop. An article was written last year about Onondaga County is flushed with cash and looking for ways to spend it, and we came up with an aquarium. The county is not focused on our well-being. I don't think the role of government is to make as most money as possible. I do think that at some point, as a government, as a municipality, you do have to pay to protect your people. I do. I don't think it's just make as much money as possible. I think we need to invest in people. An $85 million aquarium is not an investment in people. On top of it, the $85 million number was done before like 2022. I don't know if you all have been paying attention, but the price of everything has gone up. So we're probably going to end up paying more for it. So yeah, I'm very against the aquarium project. Sorry if I rambled. Yes.
In 2015, I said I ran against Ryan McMahon. I largely criticized his investment of $55 million, what I viewed as whimsically, without process, without public engagement, and without real certainty to invest in that amphitheater. And I did it after the fact. It was going to happen. And I don't know, it happened anyways. It's there. The aquarium, I've knocked probably a bunch of your doors. I try to be straightforward. When people say, what do you think of the aquarium? I say, I think I'm not going to vote on it because it's already voted for and they already passed it. So I don't think I will ever vote on it personally. If you're really jazzed up about the aquarium and you think yes, no, or the aquarium is the best thing to do with your county legislator, I'm not going to go fight a war over the aquarium. I'm going to go and try to get things done in this community based on moving forward. I definitely think there's other opportunities that we should have done with that money. I think the fact that you don't even finance it doesn't really make sense. It's a really irresponsible use of cash. But that legislature, before I got there, did it, and they're going to do it. And I hope that it drives investment into the Inner Harbor. I do think the Inner Harbor is an area where we can add many thousands more people. And again, that's part of this, like, we need to grow. We need many thousands more people. And as I said to somebody today, because the aquarium question comes up all the time, and it would be really easy to say, I hate that aquarium, I'm not going to do the aquarium, especially since I basically said that about the amphitheater before when I tried this. But 30 seconds. But what I said to someone this morning was, like, I really hope we live in a community where we grow for the first time in a long time, and we get the investment in the urban core, and we become less poor, and the aquarium is not the conversation because it's just something that happened and it's not some catastrophe. I agree that if Micron and our growth, if we don't grow and we stay the same and we continue to get more poor, then the aquarium is the ultimate disaster and an insult. But hopefully we are on a different trajectory where we can look at that and say, hey, it's okay.
Thanks, Tim. We now have time for one or two questions from the audience, and Elaine has a microphone, so please raise your hand.
So thank you for the comments. One, if you're spending a third of your income on rent, that is the definition of over rent burden. The traditional definition is 30% of your income both on rent and utilities. So I don't know what kind of rents you're charging, but that's a pretty high definition for that. What kinds of things do you think that we should be doing as the county in terms of actually promoting the kinds of development we're talking about? So we want mixed use, we want we want to build all kinds of housing. We want luxury and student and affordable. We want all those things. What specific kinds of policies do you support putting in place, whether it be something drawn from the governor's housing compact to make sure that we can encourage all of our localities in the county to be building, or are there other proposals you've got? I'd like to hear concrete examples of policy.
The city has a $100 million fund balance. If we spent every dollar on it, it wouldn't do much to the $3.7 billion that they have inadequate housing. We need to unleash private investment. That's the way it works. We need to get people to be credit worthy. They need to increase their income, so we need pathways for them to make responsible decisions and make investments in themselves. What was a third? Yes, roughly a third. Like, there are many communities when you go to other big cities where people are dedicating a half. By a third, am I saying 30%? Yeah, I'm basically saying 30% is roughly a third. It's a little more. But if you're paying less than a third, you're being responsible. But it doesn't undo the fact that we have many people who do not have the income to maintain a house. And until they earn more income, or until we dedicate like subsidies to like Section 8, like a basically add on top, that's the only way that people will be able to afford better housing, because otherwise no landlord will fix the housing because it doesn't pay for it. And like I said, if the city dedicated every penny in its fund balance, it would be a drop in a very, very, very large bucket. We need people coming in to build housing downtown, and That is the introduction of money into the economy. People work for that money, they spend that money into existence. That's how we get economic development. That is how we create opportunities broadly for people in the workforce. And that is how we lift all boats. And it sounds silly and it's easy to criticize, but really this is the economic model that we have. We are not changing the economic model of capitalism in this country in the county legislature. It's how do you need thoughtful people who get things done and will make the economy grow. I personally believe you have to do that through private investment, and that's where if we build new housing units, there should not be pressure on displacement. We have the bones for many more people. We need all the people who are here, and until we have more money flowing, we will remain largely impoverished. And there will be all the externalities that come with that we are all too familiar with.
Thank you. Great question, Eric. So this is a learning process for me, and I will admit that. So I've been learning a lot throughout this. One of the things that I did learn was an issue I'm really passionate about. The county legislature has no say on, which is zoning. The rezone issue is coming up, and I think that we need less R1 zoning in our community, so we need to increase the density. I think we should be looking at mixed use whenever possible. So the example, or I think one of the good projects that we've done that I think we should replicate was the Soul City Market. So if you look at it, there's housing, there's like shops, it's a full mixed use facility. We should do that. Like, I think we need to do more of that. I would love to have a Soul City Market on Westcott. That would be awesome. So I think we need to do that, but also when you look at like CIDA and OCIDA, a lot of times when they give like tax breaks to folks, it's student housing, it's luxury housing. I think those tax breaks should go to low-income housing. I do. I think they should go to affordable housing. If you look, so the state has affordable housing like limits, and if you hit those, the state will help you fund your projects. I think we should be trying to hit those. I think that we got to work with the state, we got to work with the federal government. I want R1, I want more mixed use, I want more low income. I do think that we need to protect the housing stock we have. I don't want to just give up on it. Like, yes, we need new housing. I'm not ignoring that. However, there are people living with lead in their homes right now. I think that your housing, if you're just ignoring that, you're ignoring a large part of the population, and like, people need help. The county legislature, the role of government is to help people. And if we have money set aside for housing, I think some of that should look into getting lead pipes out of people's homes, getting the lead paint off of people's windows, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that answers in depth.
Thanks, Mo. We're going to do one more question from the audience, and then we're going to do closing statements.
Back to the aquarium. Okay. The vote was just taken by the county legislature, and it passed by one vote, from what I read. And then within hours after that vote was taken, it was discovered that it would be built on polluted land.
Poison.
The 4.1 acres or whatever it is that Core Development wants to sell back at an enormous cost is riddled with, I think you go down a little bit, it's riddled with lead and other toxic chemicals.
Vapors.
So I'm curious about what you think about that in light of that revelation. And then also, in light of the fact that this didn't come out before the vote, but within hours after the vote, which says something to me.
It's me? Yeah. So I'm very against the whole project, but that's just like even worse. So I do want to give credit where credit's due. Legislator Bill Kenny, he actually is calling for, a revote to happen due to the new information being presented. I think that we need to put a stall on the whole project until a full environmental impact statement has been produced. We have to look at the whole project. If you just look around here, 81, we've been studying that forever. If you look at the zoning proposal, that's going, like everything in our community, we have to study it. We have to restudy it. We got to do feasibility studies. But for this project, we're just rushing through. I think that doesn't make any sense. I will say we don't share the defeatist attitude. I actually don't think it's over. I think at some point the legislature is going to have to vote on the new money. I don't think that $85 million number is enough. And I can guarantee you, if I'm your county legislator and that vote comes up, I will be a solid no vote, and I will be working my tail off to make sure everyone else is too. Thank you.
If your number one issue is to stop the aquarium, you need to vote for Bill Kinney, because the only way to change this is change the county executive. If you want somebody who's you should vote for Bill Kinney. And if you want somebody who's going to tar and feather Ryan McMahon over the aquarium and make it a mission to stop the aquarium, that's going to happen anyways because it's the gerrymandered, I mean to be defeatist, but it's a gerrymandered mess. That's why Mo and I live in the same district. That's why this is the way it is. It's 62% Dems in this district. They pile the Dems in. The Republicans are still going to control it. So I don't plan on tarring and feathering anybody over this because it already passed, and I want to get things done now. And like the idea that we found out it was poison 2 hours after, like, what did we think it was? I mean, we've degraded and disrespected that lake. Like look, my picture is riding my bike with my kids on the creek walk. I live 4 blocks from the creek walk. I take the creek walk. I have Furnace Brook behind my house. I hear it like everywhere. Furnace Brook runs to Onondaga Creek, which runs to Onondaga Lake. When I take my bike along that path, it is undeniable that the lake is the body, like it's our soul as a community. And we have like poisoned that. Right? So we have these waterways that run through that we have largely disrespected until recently when we're starting to turn around and embrace that. The edges of the lake are polluted. They are not clean, and they should be. We should have a total awakening to that being like the history of this community and people coming together and uniting around that lake. There's nothing more serious and valuable than cleaning that lake and the way we treat it, the way we still dump raw untreated sewage into the lake at certain times when there's overflows and all these other things. We should have a radical reawakening to the lake and to the way we're connected and treat each other. And I don't think that will come down to the aquarium personally. But I do believe there's a lot of work we have to do. I think the lake is a magical resource that has public access all around. There's not many lakes like that in the country. And I think it's going to be a major asset that we need to be really thoughtful about in the future. I think there's even an authentic way to make a cool aquarium where you can incorporate the history of degradation and environmentalism and all that stuff that could be a way for kids in poverty in the city to have an awakening of like, oh, that we can make different decisions. We can invest in ourselves. We can fix what has been different before. Sorry to have gone over.
Thanks, Tim. So again, if we did not get to your question, please write it down on a card on the table in the back, and we will follow up with the candidates and get answers to you subsequent to the event. I'm now going to invite the 2 candidates to each make a 2-minute closing statement, starting with Tim.
I think a lot of people probably here already have their minds made up before. I hope this gives you some chance. I think probably, in all seriousness, when people say, what's the difference? I mean, I do think both Mo and I are thoughtful, hardworking. We're probably 2 of the hardest working people in the whole Democratic Party, if you judge that by petitions, if you judge that by doors knocked. And it's a travesty that we're in the same district. We should be going to the county ledge and we should be working together. But we live in a gerrymandered mess, and maybe that'll be different in about 8 years when the county elections are in even years, and then when we can have fair maps, which I supported as a counselor. And a lot of this change is going to be gradual. I do think like our kind of stance on housing is probably the most different. I definitely think there's a need to engage the private market. I think things like good cause that have like rent caps could be unintentionally catastrophic for the city because we have a number of housing units where the rent doesn't support the maintenance of the housing. So if you put a cap on that, then you're kind of relegating your community to inferior housing. So I think there's a need to be really thoughtful about the externalities of the decisions we're about to make. And in general, I really, I'm going to be here no matter what. 235 Glenwood, I'm going to be working to make Elmwood Park the best park in the city, even though a lot of people think it's the second best park in the neighborhood. But like my heart and soul is here. I am here. You're going to see me walking up and down the 200 block of Glenwood, picking up the trash every day, regardless, because I understand that the work in this community is every day. And I've learned to navigate relationships. I think I was the mayor's ultimate nemesis as a counselor, and now I'm essentially trusted by him. And I think I'm still trusted by the council. And I think navigating those kinds of relationships is not easy to do. we've seen in the past what happens when leaders don't prioritize managing those relationships, even when interpersonal conflict comes into it. And I'm going to do everything I can to work with everybody in the county legislature and in the city, and to be respectful and transparent.
So I want to be very clear when I say this. I do not think that the county legislature is going to be Republican held for the rest of our lives. I think that there's a lot of great work being done in this community, and I'm going to support that work. I want to say shout out to Blake Carter. He's running in Camillus. You all should get to know him, and you should get to support him. There are a lot of good people in this community that want to work to change our county government, and I'm one of those people, and I want to work with those people. This campaign isn't about me. My coalition, it's about us. It's about Blake. It's about Carrie and Manlius. It's about getting a big coalition together and figuring out how you can work together. I've been working really hard to improve this county, this area, this region that took me in since I got here, when I co-founded Uplift Syracuse. Folks who have seen my work are supporting me at great lengths, and I'm super grateful for it. I've earned the endorsements of Senator Rachel May, Legislator Mary Kuhn, and I got those endorsements because they know my work. They've seen me. Labor unions like NYSET and 1199 know my work. They've seen me. I want to introduce my work to you all. When I'm working for you, you're going to get results. I got national endorsements because of my work from groups like Our Revolution that supported Bernie and Bold Progressives that supported Elizabeth Warren. And I got it because they know my work and they know that I'm going to work for this community. I have a track record of following through, and I also have a track record of winning. We are going to start doing great things in this community. We can have nice things. We can have a great bus system. We can have, a clean lake. We have to start believing in those things. And this is the next step towards those things. I want to invite you all to learn more about me and my platform on my website, www.electmauricebrown.com. Also, send me emails. Reach out to me. I want to hear your thoughts. I know the answers are in this community, and I'm looking forward to working with you to present them. Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks so much. So that was a great start to our conversation today. Thank you to Tim and Maurice. And we're going to hear next from our city auditor candidates, but first a quick announcement from Peter.
If anybody missed this on the way in, please sign up at the door. Not long ago, we got an email on Monday from one of our attendees who tested positive for COVID. We were able to send an email to everyone who had been at that meeting informing them of that. So, if you are a regular attendee, your name should be printed on the clipboard. Just put a check mark. If your name is not there, please put your name and the email. If you don't want to be on our mailing list, fine, put an X through your email or something so I'll know. Otherwise, I'll add you. If you find us annoying, just respond, take me off the list, and that's fine. So again, primarily for COVID notification, please make sure you all sign up out there.
Thanks, Peter. I'd like to welcome Alex Marion and Nader Maroon. Thanks, Nader. So, everybody take a quick breath. We're jumping right back in. That was a great start to our conversation. We're going to hear next from Alex Marion and Nader Maroon, who are running for city auditor. The format's going to be the same. I'm going to start with first a question that is basically an invitation for an opening statement of 3 minutes. Then subsequent questions will be 2-minute responses. I'm going to start with some submitted in advance by our members, and then we'll invite some from the floor as well, and we'll alternate who goes first. So again, our first question, and we're going to start with Nader on this one. Please introduce yourself and tell us why you are running to be city auditor.
Good afternoon, everybody, and again, thank you all for coming and take time out. I appreciate it too because I was working in my plant garden and it was really hot, so I appreciate coming here. And Peter, nice to see you, and Elaine, thank you. So I've been a city councilor. Well, let me back up. So I graduated from Most Holy Rosary High School. I went from there into the United States Navy for 3.5 years. My father was a prisoner of war and taught me the importance of service to the country. After that, I went to school. I graduated with a bachelor's degree from SUNY Oswego, and years later I went to RIT to get my master's degree. I've been a city councilor twice. In the mid-'80s, I was a city councilor representing the first council district, and then in 2010 through 2017, I represented the 5th council district, which was East Side and Eastwood. I subsequently had a 2-year time off, and then I became the city auditor, and I have been the city auditor for the past 4 years. And I think that most of you, or some of you at least, have known me and have contacted me over the years and had my presence. I am somebody that really follows through. I got a recognition for one of the best constituent service people on the Common Council, and something that I take a lot of pride in, and I've tried to do the same work as your city auditor.
You still have a minute and a half, my mistake.
Oh, thanks, Peter. So, again, I really feel that the importance of being a city auditor, and just for the record, my 4 predecessors all ran for or were elected the mayor. I'm not running for the mayor, and when I became city auditor, I made that clear to the administration. I did not want that office to be a political environment. I wanted to do the work of the people. I wanted to do your work. I wanted to make sure that there was transparency and accountability. And to that, our office has done approximately 20 audits over a period of time, and they're all listed on the city's website so that you can see them. I've tried to work collaboratively with the administration and with the current Common Council. I have a wonderful relationship with the council and actually with the administration on the recommendations that we've made. And overall, we will continue to do that, hopefully if you re-elect me for the next 4 years. Thank you very much, and thanks again for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, CNY Solidarity, for organizing this, and for the wonderful folks of All Saints in this incredibly inclusive, welcoming space for hosting us. So my name's Alex Marion, and I'm running to be a more proactive, assertive, community-focused city auditor who can take on some of Syracuse's biggest challenges, like auditing the $100 million of COVID relief money the city's received in recent years, taking on the thoughtful approaches we need to deal with the city's gaping budget deficit, and working to make sure we have a climate-resilient city going forward. I believe we need a city auditor to determine that we're getting real value for the limited resources we have. Yes, that includes our very limited tax dollars, but also our human capital, our most valuable resource, our facilities, our infrastructure. So how do I suppose to do this? Well, I want to provide more oversight of the decisions the city is making today, better insight, such as budget projections and using historical data to make thoughtful recommendations on how we make better decisions going forward. And I want to be an advocate. I want to advocate for better information, more transparency, and thoughtful solutions and thoughtful recommendations to how we address the policy challenges facing our city, not just recommendations that sit on a shelf and collect dust. I intend to do this by auditing every city agency as the charter requires every single year, and I promise my office will be producing at least one report every single month. Here's a few examples of what I want to do with that. I want to review the city's policies as they relate to climate resiliency. Look, we saw some bizarre extreme weather this week alone. It raised some very important questions like, how do we protect city workers? Or when we have folks out in the street collecting trash or responding to fires or working in our parks, could that lead to a higher rate of workers' compensation claims? How are we making sure that our young people, our students who are going to bus stops or walking to school, or our disabled community that may be outside waiting for a bus, how are they going to be impacted by this difficult weather? Now, I want to talk about the aquarium. I'll do an analysis of how much money the city is going to lose when that property is transferred from private hands into public hands and is no longer taxable. And then I'll work with my friends on the Common Council to fight for a pilot agreement from Onondaga County to make sure the city is made whole and we are not losing revenue. This is a serious approach that's earned me the support of folks like Senator Rachel May, Dana Balter, Mayor Stephanie Miner, Mayor Tom Young, Comptroller Marty Masterpole, Mary Kuhn, the Working Families Party, and the Humane Society Legislative Fund. And with your help, and they know I can do this because I have delivered in my life school additional funding for the Syracuse City School District through the state legislature. I've helped pass and expand early voting laws in our state. I fought to make our infrastructure better. So with your support, I'll be able to get in there and get to work.
Thanks. You can keep the mic down there. Thanks for those opening statements. So again, we're going to start with some questions submitted in advance by our members. This first question is really a follow-up on some of what you both talked about there. So can you just share with us some of your some concrete plans to make the city government more open and accountable, and for Nader, since you're in the position already, some of the concrete things you've already done to do so? Thank you. And we're going to start with Alex.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. So, like I said, I plan to honor the Charter's requirement to audit every department every year. I think that we can do a lot more to make the city accountable and transparent. One thing I've done in my career, I helped draft legislation in Albany working in the state legislature that would prohibit non-disclosure agreements and economic development deals. I would like to recommend similar legislation to the Common Council and urge them to pass it as well, so there is never a secrecy agreement between the city and folks who are receiving tax breaks. I think that would be incredibly important to make sure that's not happening, and I look forward to working with elected colleagues in the future to get that done. And there's much more we can certainly do if we're working together in a thoughtful, productive fashion like that.
Just a point of clarity. There is something called the Syracuse City Charter. And again, that's online, so you could see it. So the guidelines of what the city auditor can or can't do, I won't bore you with all the details, but if you're interested, please take a look at that so you understand the framework. With regard to transparency and accountability, currently all of our audits are posted on the website as soon as we present them to the administration and to the Common Council. Secondly, I worked with the Common Council in these last few months to ask for a referendum, which you will all see on the ballot come November, whereby the Office of the City Auditor will have enhanced subpoena power and be able to hire its own attorney should the need come up. The idea of that is to enhance, as I said, the whole capacity for transparency and accountability. In each one of the 20 audits that we have performed, we have identified several findings and recommendations to help the administration. As I said, I'm there to be a positive force, not negative, and to work with the administration and the Common Council on ways that we can improve our delivery of services and the accountability of everything that happens budgetarily. I believe the Common Council also, based on my institutional knowledge, calls upon me on several occasions to give them some advice and counsel so it helps them in their main fiduciary responsibility with the budget.
Thanks, Nader. We'll start with you for this next one. I think it's probably fair to say that for some folks in the room, the position of city auditor is not the one that we're most familiar with. So I wonder if you could both just tell us a little bit more about, in this position, what can you do as city auditor to help address some of the issues that we've been hearing about today? So issues like poverty and lead exposure in housing and the need for affordable housing and protecting our environment and the like. And we'll start with Nader.
So again, as I mentioned in the city charter, it identifies that the auditor is to perform annual review of city services, basically. And it would be amazed to see anybody perform an audit in a month's time. I don't believe you can give a thorough analysis in 1 month's time to the complexity of the government and what goes on. What we've tried to do is, not tried, what we have done for the past 4 years is do a risk management assessment of the city. We're a $310 million budget, and we've tried to look at it to see where it would have the most impact for you and me as taxpayers and make sure that we're focused on those areas. For instance, one of the first audits that we did was a workers' compensation program. You hear a lot of talk now about these new garbage carts that we have and some of trying to minimize the workers' comp cost to the city. The city spends nearly $4 million a year on workers' comp, and we wanted to reduce that by making our findings and recommendations to the administration to talk about safety issues for our employees, for accountability in terms of our workforce, and if there's an injury, what follow-up there is, what early back to work programs there are. Subsequently, we also did an audit on mobile communication devices, and we found that the city overspent by $300,000 during the time frame that we looked at. So we've tried to look at each department and do our assessment in the context of the risk management of a $310 million budget to determine where is it and the taxpayers get the best representation from the audits that we've performed.
Thank you very much. I think that the city auditor's office needs to be extremely proactive and extremely assertive. The scope of the solutions we see in our city too often pales in the face of the challenges that we are experiencing. Here's how I would address issues like affordable housing. I've worked on housing issues for pretty much my entire career, and I think that we need to do much more to make sure, number one, the city is doing robust code enforcement. I think that the best way we can make sure that our housing stock is healthy and safe and affordable is making sure that our code enforcement officers are out there doing their job. We are holding that department accountable. We are making sure that we are using the data from our code enforcement department to better inform how our policies related to that work going forward. I want to also review how the city applies for state and federal assistance as it relates to affordable housing. Let's see, is there money out there that we're not getting? Why aren't we getting that? And I'll advocate to our friends in both Washington and Albany to make sure that we are getting our fair share of money to help create the affordable housing stock, the quality, safe, affordable housing stock that we so desperately need. And I think another thing we need to do is look at the chasm of the city's budget deficit. We need to look at different ways we address the revenue side as well as the expenditure side. And once we get a good handle on what is coming in and what is going out, then I think that we can look to make sure we're getting real value for all of the resources that we have in the city of Syracuse.
Thanks, Bill. We now have time for a question or two from the audience. We got one in the back.
Hello, my name is Colin. I live in Eastwood. We've been talking a lot about housing, and I know that that's an issue that's important to this group as well. And certainly one of the biggest housing issues we have still are delinquent landlords in the city, and we know that one of the ways these landlords have escaped accountability in the past is by making a lot of campaign contributions to city officials and using that political capital to escape accountability. And so firstly, I wonder if both of you can commit to not taking contributions from delinquent landlords in the city. And then secondarily, I did check on the Board of Elections website before I came here to just look and see, and I noticed, Nader, that you had not filed your 32-day report yet, which was due on May 26th, and so I wonder if you can speak to why you chose not to follow the law in this case, especially as somebody running to be the city's fiscal watchdog.
We'll start with Nader.
Yeah, thank you for the question. The treasurer for my campaign had some emergency situation, and so we're family matters, which is personal, and so I was aware of that, and we will be filing. And as I have filed throughout my running for city councilor and for city auditor, always on time.
And the other part of the question was about contributions from delinquent landlords.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part. Can you repeat the question about the landlords? Because I couldn't hear you.
So we've been talking a lot about housing here, and I know that the delinquent landlords are a huge concern for folks in the room, and one of the ways historically that those folks have been able to escape accountability is by doing things like making campaign contributions to city officials as a way of trying to escape accountability. And so I was wondering if both of you could commit to not taking those contributions in the future.
So I haven't taken any contributions from delinquent landlords.
I make it my policy not to take contributions from slumlords, folks who are abusing our housing stock throughout the city of Syracuse. I will not take campaign contributions from LLCs. Any contribution I get will be reported. You will know the name of the person who is supporting me, and you can look up to see if they are a slumlord. And I have looked very carefully at the over 100 individual contributors I've had in my campaign, and none of them are slumlords, I promise.
Another question.
Anyone else have a question?
Thank you. So I did a little looking yesterday before I came, and I was looking just through the website and the reports going back 10, 15 years now, I think they go. And, the output of the office declined after Comptroller Masterpole left, and then last year there were a bunch of reports left, which would make sense leading into an election year. What I'm wondering is, and it's a slightly different version of this question for both of you. Nader, what is the most impactful audit that you have conducted so far? And then the follow-up to that is, what is the most impactful one that you would like to do, that you're just kind of rearing to get your teeth into? And then Alex, similarly for you, it's what do you think in, again, the past 10 years or so, what's the most impactful that you've seen in your work in city government or since then? And what's the most important or exciting one that you'd like to do out the door if you were to be elected?
Thanks. We'll start with Alex on this one.
Okay. So I've spent quite a bit of time lately reading old city audits. Don't everyone rush out and go do that at home tonight. I promise. We've got a handle on it. There are a couple really impactful ones I've seen over the years. One was conducted by then City Auditor, now County Comptroller Marty Masterpole. He did it in tandem with the then County Comptroller Bob Antonacci working across the aisle, where they audited the land bank in the city of Syracuse, because it's a joint city-county effort. I thought that was a very smart way to share resources, and I would really look forward to working with now Comptroller Masterpole's office, or the State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli's office, other partners who can make sure that we have thoughtful shared services and are thoughtfully putting out reports that address issues that don't necessarily start or end at the city limits. Additionally, this is a little older, but I really appreciated the work that then City Auditor Minch Lewis did on the issue of the Syracuse Police Department's drug enforcement policy, where he was one of the first people in the mid-2000s who was starting to raise the issue of taking on the war on drugs and how ineffective it was. And I think that led to some policy changes over the years at the Syracuse Police Department. And I think we need to do more to work on police accountability and police policies. And I would love to do a report. I've already talked about climate resiliency. So I want to do a report on how the large nonprofit entities in the city of Syracuse and state-owned entities like SUNY Upstate, like Syracuse University, do not pay property taxes, and how much revenue we're losing. A few months ago, I had the opportunity to talk to Congresswoman Summer Lee from the Pittsburgh area about how she has a similar issue in her neck of the woods, where large nonprofit hospitals take up a ton of public resources, police, fire, DPW, but pay $0 in property taxes. I think we need to be able to find ways to capture some revenue, or ask our partners in Albany and Washington to help us capture some of that revenue, because we desperately need it to help our city move forward.
Thank you for your question, Eric. The reality of it is that the Syracuse Charter identifies what it is that the audit office can do and can't do. And with regard to your statement in terms of reduced number of audits, again, I would say to the interested party who chooses to look at the city's website and look at the audits, look at the substantive value of the audits that were done prior to our assuming office versus the substantive nature of our audits. And again, this on behalf and respect of the taxpayer, we're not rushing to do an audit to say that we did an audit. We try to do it in the context with the Common Council, with the administration, but most importantly for all of you as the taxpayers, to make sure that we're covering those areas that are responsibly and important to all of you. And from the standpoint of an audit that we've done in the past 4 years, primarily I would have to say it was the workers' comp, because we have roughly 2,400 employees. And as I said, we spend $4 million. We have a lot of people that go out on workers' comp, and I value our city employees. As I said, I'm one of the old guys around with institutional knowledge, and I know a lot of these people, and I think their health and well-being is the most important priority for our office. Thanks again for the question, Eric.
Thanks, Nader. So I'm now going to invite each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement, and we will start with Nader.
Again, thank you all for coming today. My body of work is out there. I have lived here since 1960 and graduated, as I said, from a local high school, gone on to college, served my country, and tried to serve our community, one that has been very good to me and to my children. And I hope I have represented all of you in both a professional manner, in a way that you know and count on and trust. I've tried not to be a political person. I often say I'm never very politically correct. I try to represent all of you on a variety of issues over the years, and now in my role as city auditor, I hope that you can find it in your hearts to vote for me for another 4 years. Experience matters. Experience does matter. I have the experience, I have the relationships, and I think I know the community quite well, and I think I know the tenor of what you all are looking for from a responsible city auditor. So thank you for your consideration, and I hope you can find it, as I said, in your heart to vote for me, to re-elect me as your city auditor.
Thank you, Tom, and again, thank you all of you for coming here today and spending a lovely summery afternoon with us. Look, I am running because I think that we need big ideas. This is a community that has a tremendous amount of potential, and I want to put that potential to work. I think we can only put that potential to work when we are focused on big ideas and delivering for people in this community. I've spent my entire career delivering, whether it was fighting for additional school funding for the Syracuse City School District, passing and expanding the number of early voting sites across the state of New York, fighting to make sure that we have better infrastructure and better transportation, helping pass some of the most sweeping tenant protections across the state of New York. And so I want to put all of that experience, along with big ideas and fresh perspective, to work for the people of the city of Syracuse. And I am so eager to get to work for all of you. I really hope I can count on your support. And over the last several months, I have knocked on truly thousands of doors. I have worn out my sneakers. I'm going to have to go to Fleet Feet in a couple of weeks and replace them. And I believe I have been given from the people of our community a to-do list. I actually do have a note in my phone to remind me of all the ideas I've gotten from people on doors, I've gotten from people I've had conversations with, and I cannot wait to get to work. That is more than 4 years worth of projects to work on, I think. But I can't wait to get to work and deliver more results and big ideas and better solutions for the community. Thank you so much for your time, and I really hope I can count on your support.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Nader and to Alex. I now invite up the candidates for Syracuse Common Councilor-At-Large. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Peter.
Are we going to be throwing you?
We know. We have 3 candidates for this race, so I'm going to sit over here by Peter.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you so much.
Do you want to use the middle since you're the only boy? Okay. I got it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So our third and final race to hear from the candidates is Syracuse Common Councilor-At-Large. And so we are joined by Chol Machuk, Rita Paniagua, and Jen Schultz. We're going to follow the same format. The only difference is that we'll be hearing from 3 candidates instead of 2. But again, I'll rotate the order. My first question will be basically inviting them to make an opening statement. They'll get 3 minutes, and then the subsequent, the next couple questions were submitted in advance by our members, and then we'll open it to the floor. So for the opening statements, we're going to go Jen, then Rita, then Joel. And please introduce yourselves and tell us why you're running for County Councilor-At-Large. Thank you. 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here and hosting us and all of the candidates. And also thank you all for attending on this amazing, beautiful day. Again, my name is Jen Schultz. I'm currently the 1st District Councilor running for Councilor-At-Large. I'm a lifelong North Sider and a lifelong Democrat. I'm a first-generation college graduate. I have a master's degree in health education, and I am published in medical journals. I am a wife to my best person, Tom, over there for 26 years. I'm a mom with 2 daughters and a puppy, an old puppy. I'm the first woman to be elected to the 1st District, and that really means a lot to me. I'm the counselor for the most diverse district in the city, and as long as I've lived there, it has been the most diverse district. I lived in the 1st District only ever my whole life. I'm extremely proud of these accomplishments, obviously. I decided to run for the at-large seat so that I could broaden my scope and my daily focus and not worry about district borders. That actually comes up as a thing, believe it or not. So as counselors, we all have one vote. We vote on citywide, but on the day-to-day, it's definitely district borders. So again, 1st District being the most diverse, I do feel that that has prepared me to be a city at-large counselor. In addition to my job as counselor, I am a current college housing advisor and property manager for a sorority that I started 34 years ago at SUNY Cortland. This organization helps to empower women, and I'm honored to be their mentor and also their housing advocate. I'm also the chair to the Sedgwick Farm Neighborhood Association and have been for the past 12 years. We just received the Onondaga Historical Association Medal, which has been a culmination of more than 100 years of really dedicated constituents, community members, property owners. So super proud of that, because to me, bringing people together and working together for a cause is truly everything. I also support and volunteer for several organizations throughout the community. I decided to run for office during the pandemic, oddly enough, because I wanted to see stronger neighborhoods. I wanted to see improved city services and also quality of life improved for everyone. I use the CARE statements in my palm cards and my notes to constituents, and CARE stands for a bunch of different things beside the obvious, and that is community, action, respect, and equality, commitment, accountability, results, and excellence, and the list goes on. It's my honor to currently serve as the 1st District, but I really do hope to get the chance to serve at large. I do believe that everybody has a voice and it needs to be heard, from our most marginalized, oppressed, to the person that has the most resources in the city. I treat everybody equally. I might treat those that have more need a little higher, actually. But I do feel like stronger neighborhood city services and quality of life and housing are the tops. So what I do as far as stronger neighborhoods go is I attend weekly community meetings. I answer my phone call, my text, my email, much to the chagrin of my husband, who will say, turn that thing off. But when I tell you, it is on all the time, because truly, as a counselor, we are the representative for the people. So thank you.
I'm going to put it this way so it's easier to slide. Good afternoon, everybody. Rita Paniagua. I am your counselor at large currently. I have been serving for the past 4 years as such. And the 4 years before that, I served at the school board. But my life in Syracuse started in 2003, in June actually. So this June, right now, I am a 20 years resident of the city of Syracuse. When I first came to Syracuse, I immediately started working with the community. I started the Spanish Action League, which is a medium-sized agency in the, sorry, I can't see with this, in the west side of the city. My experience with the Spanish Action League was a very unique one, as with the background that I've already brought from Puerto Rico. When I moved in, it just taught me how to assess community issues, how to look for solutions, implement those, look for funding for those. So that kind of built, all of my next steps in the city of Syracuse, which were to run for office. and as I just mentioned, a school board and then city council. In the process of that, I have served in many different non-for-profit boards and community committees, coalitions, and all of those things. Currently, I am serving, and I got a list. So I am part of the LED Strategic Planning, that's a city and county committee, which we're planning the how strategically we're going to spend the $11 million that are at the table for different education and other implementing programs in the community. I am also part of the SETCO board, where we see all of the small businesses and different kinds of developments being supported by microloans from the city and different kinds of programs that also come through SETCO. I am the president of the board of CNY Arts, the board, and Interfaith Works, which brings me close to the community. I think mostly that it is through the collective effort that as a community we do what brings the solutions to make of Syracuse this city, the great city we all want Syracuse to be. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's good to see everyone here. My name is Chol Majuk. It feels really good to sit in this church. As many of you may know, that this church is such a beacon in the heart of many Neo-Americans, especially the Congolese community. And I just want to extend that appreciation out there. If they have not heard from our heart how much we appreciate their help and their welcoming heart, thank you so much. The other part is, many of you know that I have ran 3 years straight. So you probably, if I bore you with the detail, please forgive me. But I came as a refugee from the Sudan 21 years ago as part of the Lost Boys, and then went through foster care system, went to Fowler High School, graduated from Fowler, went to Syracuse University, and where Professor Keck taught me constitutional law. And then I went to SUNY Albany, and then finished 3 years ago with a doctorate in executive leadership at St. John Fisher University. While doing all of that, I was raising a family. I worked for 2 senators, 2 New York State senators, and then I have worked also for former Mayor Stephanie Minor. And then I got elected in 2019 as the first refugee immigrant ever elected in this city in 171 years. So I'm saying all of that to say that as an immigrant, as a refugee, my heart belongs to this community, and part of that reason is the welcoming that this community have given to foreigners, people who have fled their home looking for a second chance in life. And this community proudly have stood up and gave us that space to live. I'm running to continue my service on the Common Council because there are a number of Neo-Americans in this community that want to continue to live in this community. And I want to continue to give them that leadership platform and that mentorship and that example, as well as there is just too little housing in this community, and we need to really build more houses so that we can give our people a place to raise family, to live well, and to feel comfortable. This is a third world country, and we shouldn't be talking about housing at this point. We should be having enough housing for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for those opening statements. Our first question is about the issue of housing that Joel just touched on and that we've already heard about a little bit today. For this one, we're going to go Joel, then Jen, then Rita. And can you tell us, and we get 2 minutes each, can you tell us what will you do to increase healthy and affordable housing options in Syracuse? Thanks.
Well, we have not seen a major investment into housing since the 90s. So how about we start first in working with our federal partners to create funding to build more houses, promote home ownership, invest in renovating the old housing stock so that tax base also raised. So I would continue to work with our federal partners to build more housing. Number two, renovate so that our children and our elderly and those that are vulnerable can live in a safe space where lead is not a problem. And again, we are in 21st century. We shouldn't be talking about this stuff. However, we are. And that need to change. So build more houses, promote home ownership, and renovate housing that is dilapidated.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree, and certainly the county legislative candidates as well agreed that housing is a serious issue. Housing needs are different depending on what part of the city you're in, so I think it definitely takes a team approach to address all of them. One of the things that the city has recently done that we've supported on the council is improving our codes department and the administration of it, because it's really their front line with identifying the blight and the issues going on. So from there, it's really important that we work with those, right? So if that one particular house or apartment building needs more resources to rehabilitate it, then we need to do all we can to make sure that those resources keep coming and that those funding streams don't stop. We also approved a housing study to be done that was just recently completed this month in June. And I think that's going to be a great document for us to be able to use going forward to really and truly identify, well, we've already identified what issues there are and what parts of town need it most, but that's really going to be our document that we're going to hold on strong to in order to be able to focus on what needs to be done. And also, we really need to continue to support the programs that we have right now in place. As you know, our community is full of really caring, passionate people. I truly believe that our city has that going for it, number one. I've never met a more, population that is more caring and considerate, as we all are. So some of those housing programs, as I'm sure we all know, but Home Headquarters is one of the front line. They have the Financial Empowerment Center. So when you think about housing, as some of the other folks have said today, really important to try to get folks out of rental situations if they can and become a homeowner. Because as we probably know, that investment is probably going to serve them better than being a renter. We know our rents are too high. I was talking to my husband the other day. I'm like, we could not have afforded to ever buy a house with the rents the way they are today. I mean, it is mind-blowing. I feel so grateful to be as old as I am and not, some young buck that's just starting out after college, because I don't know where they're going. I mean, they've got college loans and trying to buy a house, and then for the folks that never went to college, where's their, life's worth and where's their savings account? They're living paycheck to paycheck, especially trying to take care of their families with their kids, and we are number one childhood poverty. So everything is really connected into housing and poverty, and we just need to do all we can to work on it more daily.
Thank you. So in terms of housing, I agree with both of my colleagues. Definitely more housing is needed. No matter how much we build right now, we will need more. I think that I've been very invested in a program through Jubilee Homes, which brings housing to the Southwest community, which is one of the most marginalized communities in the city. And I'll tell you that one of the issues, as Jennifer was just recanting, is that what the cost to build these one-family homes in those areas right now, it's from $350,000 to $400,000. So to keep it affordable, we can only sell from $100,000 to $110,000 at best. So then there's that subsidy gap that we desperately need to be able to move these projects forward. So the projects are moving slower right now because we don't have identified that subsidy gap. One of the things that will help this a little bit is we still at the city we have ARPA dollars that are still going to be distributed through the Syracuse Search for this to subsidize these gaps. I'm not sure how far far and deep that will help us. It all depends on, as somebody mentioned before, maybe it was you, Jennifer. Things continue to get higher priced as we move, into it from year to year. So what cost $200 now costs $400. So it's and it's just the nature of the life we're living. I think that it's important to also continue to offer our communities rentals that are affordable, new, because not everybody is ready to buy a home for many reasons. It could be financial, it could be, I don't know, just life circumstance. It could be many reasons. So we would, thank you. We would need to build more of those too.
Great, thank you. So our next question is about the rezone process, and the particular question is, I'm still on the housing front. So there's a proposal on the table to require all new large development projects to include at least 30% affordable housing with no waivers and no exceptions. So I'd like to hear from each of the candidates whether you support that proposal, but as well any additional comments that you have on rezone. And we're going to go Rita, then Joel, then Jim.
So in terms of rezone, we just had our hearing with the community within the past couple days. I do support the program of rezone as it is. I think it is a program that we've been working for even before I was in council. This has been years and years in the making, and we need to pass something so that we can, through the implementation process and as we start working with it, there will be options for us to make the needed changes as we move forward. I think one of the communities that apparently seems more affected in Fayette have voiced their concern about how they are being in the rezone process, how they're being oh my God, I'm losing a word here, from R1 to R4. So I don't, right now, the rezone will pass most likely, and then we will then figure out how to bring on the changes that may be needed.
Well, let's start with the 30%. I completely agree with that. I think often what we don't want to do, especially now, is what has happened in the past, in which there's a population and a group that get sidelined, and because they get sidelined, they don't get access to basic services, to basic need like housing, and so that 30% help us to make sure that there is on the books that level of accountability. And what I want to go further is to make sure that there is a level of accountability that is data driven. That if somebody's building a complex or building a massive housing, that they are held accountable. That they produce that, they are checked to make sure that they comply with that. Another thing that I would like to also continue to encourage is the listening voices. I think when, as council, as a community, when we listen to each other, it produces best ideas. So listening to the community, people who want to voice, we sit here, but we're not the smartest, right? But through all of you, through us working together, we can produce good ideas. So listening, making sure that 30% is implemented, and also making sure that different voices that are rarely heard are part of the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, rezone. For the most part, I think it's great. The fact that it's taken almost 8 years and it has involved hundreds of community meetings, which I'm all for, getting the community's input. It's all about the taxpayers in the community. It's not about us. We're merely facilitators and liaisons. So I commend everyone who's been part of that process. Like with everything in life, nothing is perfect. I definitely don't think rezone is perfect. I think we need to take just a little bit more time just to look at some of those details that might need just a little bit more attention. be it community feedback. We're not talking about opening up all 250 pages of it, but I think that as counselors, we have heard from hundreds and hundreds over the past month about a few issues that I think, if nothing else, the council needs to take some time and either talk about it as a group or have some kind of Q&A with the community to make sure that we're getting this right. Because once we stamp this, while there still can be changes that are made after the fact, let's try to put our best foot forward and get it as right and correct as we possibly can. That's number one. Number two, also we've heard a lot about increasing the low-income housing for new developments from what's currently in rezone at 12% up to 30%. And I definitely see that that's a valid request because, again, we need housing. We know rents are too high. But I think there needs to be a balancing act with that. So if we've got, say, a 10-unit apartment building that's a brand new development, and we're asking that 10-unit to make 3 of the 10 low income, I don't know what the financial sheets look like for that. Does that make the project not possible? Because I don't want that to happen. So I do think that with the larger developments, absolutely 30%, don't even think about it, done, easy to do. But for the smaller projects, I think we really need to take a closer look at that and make sure that that's a feasible thing because, again, bottom line, we really want that to happen. And as far as waivers go, I know I'm running out of time, I'm sorry. We need to keep a watchful eye on that as well as pilot agreements because I think we get so excited about things and we just want to give away the farm and then 10 years later we realize we shot ourselves in the foot. So we need to slow down and check it out.
Thank you. Our next question is about poverty in Syracuse. We've heard a lot about affordable housing so far, but so in addition to expanding access to affordable housing, what are the most concrete things that the Common Council can do to address concentrated poverty? And we're going to go Jen, then Rita, then Schultz.
Yeah, again, so number 1 childhood poverty per capita, top 10 in the country. That is definitely not a title that we're proud of. So as the council, when we get each individual legislation, we really need to stop ourselves and make sure that this is really going to help reduce the poverty that's going on. What's tied to poverty? Obviously housing, but even more so jobs. And I loved that Mo Brown brought up the transportation part because I'm the transportation committee chair, and transportation is critical. I've given so many people rides. I see standing at the bus stop. I go down, I do an errand, 15 minutes there, come back, and they're still standing there. And I'll ask them what's going on. They're like, I don't know, the bus isn't coming. And so I'm like, hop in the car. Where are you going? I'm going to the hub. No, where are you going? No, I'm going here. I'm like, okay, let's go there. So we need that. And thankfully, Centro is working hard on that. Bus rapid transit, hopefully it's coming in the next few years. The city has a big part to play in that with the traffic signaling and the sidewalks and the bus stations. So we need to stay very involved in that. But in addition, Centro has an automatic ride program that they're working on. So can you imagine for $1, somebody can call and get a call bus basically within 10 minutes and they can get to work. And I'm advocating hard for Centro Bus going to the airport because right now we're one of the only municipalities, large municipalities with an airport in New York State that doesn't have a bus service to the airport. So we have a lot of issues to deal with, and I could go on, but I know my time is up.
Thank you. In terms of poverty, well, we all know that poverty has many faces. In the community, we've talked about housing a lot today. One of the things that I think that we can definitely do in terms of education, in terms of poverty, is education. We need to put more attention to education now with the unprecedented growth that will come with the changes that micro will bring in our community to make it this process equitable for everybody to be able to be part of these big changes. We need to make sure that we have programs that will educate people in our marginalized communities as well, so that they can apply for these jobs and they can, little by little, absorb, have a better life. We have also programs such as, I'll give you an example, the DRI, that is bringing $10 million to the Southwest community. This will bring in projects and investments, like, for example, in 416 West Onondaga Street, there's going to be a new economic development center where people are going to be trained to be able to sustain jobs. We need to remember that when we talk about poverty, we have to deal with individuals where sometimes we're working in the change of a mindset, so that they're able to then comply with the responsibilities of having a job and things of that nature, or going to school, education, additional education. So that center will provide all of that good education and programs, and then we have things like bringing small business development into the community, which right now, as a city councilor, I am proud of having brought the different opportunities into the community that they didn't use before because they just didn't know about it. So a lot of our community that could benefit from a lot of the services that we have in the city, they just don't know about them, and this is why there's an inequity in things that are available.
There is nothing on this earth that terrifies me than to feel like my children are going to struggle like I am. I struggle a lot getting here, and any auntie, any father, any mother, any uncle, any brother, any sibling, the struggle that you have went through, you always wish that your children or your family members or your friend children don't have to go through that. And for me, when I look at this community and where we are currently, yes, there are a lot in our future that is coming. But the struggle that we go through, that our children are going through today, especially in the district, it breaks my heart, because when I see that and when I look at my children, it terrifies me. And many of you that know my background know that I came from some hell. And to see my children even getting close to that, it terrifies me. So why am I saying that? I look at this community as a community that can be better, and we got to do more. We have to work and do better to stabilize families, because with family stability, children have more chances in life to do better. That's just statistically, you will find that out there. We got to do more, invest in family, such as childcare, so parents don't have to struggle so much to do better economically. The other part that I think that can help poverty is close the access gap and the skill gap. Workforce development, train more people, train people so that they can do for themselves. Because when they do that, not only the family structure get better, but the city get better. The other part is youth services. Youth services so that a struggling mother or a father or somebody that is raising a child don't have to take so much sacrificing, that they have place to send these kids that they can have time somewhere positive. The other part is transportation. I grew up on Brighton neighborhood. Having rides to get somewhere, to get to places, to get to suburbs, to find work is difficult. So I'll stop there. I'll get excited. I'm sorry.
We now have time for questions from the audience, and Elaine has the microphone.
Come on now. Any questions? At the Jeopardy song?
Well, I'm going to ask one while y'all keep thinking. I wonder if each of you, I'm just on the fly, but I wonder, a couple of you have referenced working with some of our state partners in Albany, and I wonder if each of you could comment briefly on something good that the state government in Albany has done to help the city in recent years, and something more you would hope to see in the next couple of years. And I think we are set for Joel first, and then Jen.
So as somebody that believes in democracy, I think early voting is one of the best things that our state have done to this community, especially as coming as a new American, giving us that 10 days before the actual vote. It'll help us really galvanize people and give folks option to be able to get to poll. Now, on the other part, if we can just invest in housing, bring more resources here. Our city is drowning. I think that would.
Yep. So the question was something at the state, right? Just state level?
And it's something more that we need.
Okay, right. So at the state level, thanks to Governor Hochul giving us $28 million to put toward demolishing the Syracuse Developmental Center property, which has been a blight on our community. Even the people that are squatting in there, you know, concern for them, just horrible. So the fact that she allocated $28 million for us to be able to demolish that, because otherwise our small little $300 million budget could never have taken that on. And then we've got housing coming, we've got mixed use, we've got stores coming to that area. So that's one of my biggest things I'm grateful for. The $11 million, I think 2 years ago, that New York State allocated to revitalize the South Side and the Salina Street corridor, I think, is another one. What we need from them, and then we flip it over to the legislation side. Recently, Assemblyman Magnarelli, as transportation chair, passed legislation for Syracuse to be able to pass legislation, which Councilor Mojek and I proposed at our last meeting, and we all agreed on it, was to put cameras on school bus red light arms so that they could then find the folks who are jeopardizing the safety of our children. So again, we work hand in hand. We can't make the really big laws, but we certainly can pass a resolution to request that they make the big laws and then pass them down to us so that we can make them here for our community to make us safer, better, stronger. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. I will say that working with the arts in Syracuse through CNY Arts, the state has, for the second year in a row, allocated $1 million for the arts, which helps us bring arts in education programs, which have proven to be definitely a conduit for education and behaviors, mental health in our schools and community after-school programs. We now have, I think it's $1.8 million. I'm not sure of the final amount there. They announced the other day for brownfield work in the city. And one thing that I believe that we desperately need is to close the subsidy gaps for more affordable housing.
Thank you for coming, Eric.
So I'm going to ask a political question since we're in a political environment. We're probably going to have 4 more years of the county executive we have now. That's very likely to happen. But the mayor is going to change in a couple of years. And so as we're looking toward Ben's, whatever he does next, or wherever he goes next, what is your sort of position and your evaluation of how that mayorship has gone, the Common Council's relationship with it, and what your role would be as a Common Councilor-At-Large, sort of setting us up for the next administration and sort of getting the council's priorities set up and really setting the stage for whoever the next mayor might be?
We're going to go Rita, then Joel, then
So I think that the Common Council has a good relationship with the administration, mayor included. We don't always agree on things, but that's the nature of the job. We're there to deal with accountability more than anything and make sure that the budget is being spent accordingly, right, with what's been passed. And that implementation is going also accordingly to the plans they're presenting to us. Of course, there are always changes. Or maybe not always, but a lot. And so those are things that I think that we need to sustain that kind of relationship. I think the mayor has brought good programs to the city of Syracuse in his tenure, and there's still 2 more years to come to continue to develop those programs. We're talking the sidewalks, lights, well, different things. It's a long list. So I think the infrastructure of Syracuse have seen a lot of betterment with this administration, and I think that's good. I think that for the incoming person, definitely needs to continue to harvest, right, this good relationship that we have. And again, I'm going to say it's not always We don't always agree on things, but it's okay to disagree as long as we can do it professionally and bringing solutions to the table.
So I would agree with Rita in terms of the environment being political, that it can never be perfect. But overall, as a council, we have worked very well with the mayor. I think as a council, we strive to make sure that there is peace in terms of making sure that our first priority is services to the people as opposed to individual ego. And we have been able to do that and deliver on that. And you know, is it perfect? No, it's not. Could it be better? Yes. But to this point is what it is for the environment that we are in. So our relationship with the mayor is that the role of the mayor in this sense has been a working progress, considering that as a city we are resource strapped, and there is so much you can do with what we have currently. That's why we advocate so much and push for our state and federal representative to give us some hand. In terms of who's next, I personally think that the next person would have a huge challenge in their hand, as we will have a serious and a strong structural deficit. And that mayor would need to really think outside of the box, as if we don't already have enough problem, and now we got to deal with structural deficit. With that, I think that person, the community, would need to really sit down and really think hard of who's that person next. And as a Democrat, you know, Mayor Walsh, I knew Mayor Walsh through our time with Mayor Minor, but I'm a Democrat, and I want a Democrat. Next mayor. That's just honest truth.
There.
Okay, great. So I've been in office for about 18 months now, so all I have to compare as far as this administration and the relationship with the council has been that. I came into this seat during the pandemic. I watched us leave the pandemic. I came into this seat with a $123 million windfall to the city and the mayor and his team to try to identify how best to use that money, how to have it allocated by 2024, how to have it spent by 2026. We have a lot of issues, obviously, we all know them, what they are. So when you see $123 million, it seems like a lot of money. We could use $123 billion more, but I do think that we have done a lot of good work on the council. We don't always agree, but I think that's good work, because I think we need a balance, and I don't like rubber stamps, and I don't think we are a rubber stamp. So I commend our council for the work that we've done. As far as the relationship with the mayor, administration, and our team, our council team, again, I don't have a lot to compare to. I'm sure Mr. Institutional Knowledge over here could give us a little insight, but to me it feels a lot like church and state, and I think that maybe, like Councilor Majuk said, that maybe things are just set up that way. They're supposed to be that way. I'm a team player, and so there's no I statement in team for me. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, because I would like to see all of City Hall, every single floor, every single water department floor, DPW, you name it, even the school district, all be on the same team. We are on the same team, but we can't always be on the same side of the field, if that makes sense. So personally, I would like to grow the team mentality a little bit more. There's always room for improvement. I think the mayor's done a great job with what he has been served. I mean, before the pandemic, his mayorship must have looked a lot different than during the pandemic, and a lot different now. So overall, I love Syracuse. We do a great job.
Thanks. I'm now going to invite each of the candidates to give a 2-minute closing statement. For these, we're going to go Joel, then Jen, and then Rita.
So,
As I mentioned earlier, I was elected in 2019 as the first ever refugee and immigrant in our community. And I want to continue that work. And part of why I really want to continue to do that work is we have a growing community, and leadership matters, representation matters. And if you want to push away a group of people, make sure they don't sit on the table. And this is not the history of this community, and I want to continue to be part of this community, fostering, welcoming, and relationship from that perspective. So that's one from Neo-American perspective, so that the democracy and participation, civic engagement in this community continue to be strong. And like I said, we, in the next few years, Neo-Americans population is going to be larger than what it is today. And we have set ourselves up very well, and I'm asking everyone so that we can continue to do that work. I was in the Pride event yesterday, and then after I got back, I ran into one of my Neo-American family member. We are Neo-Americans. And she came to me and said, Joel, I just left my apartment with my son. We can no longer afford it. And Joel, we can't find an apartment anywhere. As somebody that is one of the representatives of Neo-American, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see people who travel thousands of miles to be in the first world country, yet they cannot afford a place to live in. That's a problem for me. And your vote for me is a vote to continue to make sure that the voice of advocacy continue through our city, and the voice that will continue to fight for good quality, affordable housing. Thank you.
It was Jennifer, right?
Thank you, microphone girl. You're very good.
I get to be in the middle.
You're our Vanna White. Okay, so again, the reason why I ran for office was stronger neighborhoods, improved quality of life, and city services. And I really want to continue doing that. Again, only 18 months in the position. It's really amazing to me what the learning curve is for this job, because unless you've done the job, you could not imagine. It's kind of like childbirth and labor, but we won't go there. Stronger neighborhoods, one of the things I've really prided myself on is being eyes and ears, answering my phone all the time, and listening to constituents, putting their voice first. So one of the things that I've done successfully with my constituents is stop 2 illegal corner stores in just the 1st District alone. And I think we can all agree that some neighborhoods have more corner stores than not, and I wish we could have limits on them, but anyway, so that's one thing I'd really like to continue on. I lit the butternut and Grant Boulevard circle tree for the first time in 50 years. I'm pretty proud of that. So I'd like to see more things like that, just the little, cherry on top of things to really kind of make people smile, and kind of like a free zone where we don't have to talk about anything that's too incredibly serious. I have started a pilot project to restore green space on unimproved streets. Again, it's a pilot, so it's just a test run, but I don't know if any of you live on unimproved streets, but they're the ones with no curbs. And year after year, when our contractor that we outsource to comes and they just pour the tar via however they want, you can look down the street and it goes like this. And then some streets don't have any green space left. So we need that for drainage. We need that to protect our sewers. And with the growth of, the opportunities Micron has, that's an important thing. And also with the opportunities that Micron stands to offer us as a city and as a county, I think we need to be right on with that, and we need to be asking the hard questions and just as transparent as possible. One last thing, animal control. I don't know if you're very versed in what our services are like, but I dare you to compare us to Rochester and Buffalo, who have the most profound animal services department. So I am putting that high on my priority. We already got the Jamesville Penitentiary to allow us more shelter space. I'm on the Animal Cruelty Task Force. We've worked really hard to get that done. And we also created 7 new shelter positions and an animal services coordinator. So hopefully we'll have better help soon.
Well, just to finish off, thank you again all for coming and having us present our ideas. I'll start by saying that as a councilor, there is no one decision we make alone. Every decision that comes through council needs the consensus of the council. So it is very important to continue to build the relationships within and among our as colleagues. So that's something that it's very important to me. When I was elected in the Commissioner of Education and as a councilor, one of the things that I have always put forth is accountability and making sure that there's a fair process for the things that are in front of us at the table. And I do want to continue to bring that perspective to Syracuse. One of the things that makes me most proud, it's the information of programs and benefits I've been able to bring to people in the community that otherwise would have never had the chance to even get close to these things. Most of them has been engaging with small business development. Right now we have 3 new businesses about to open at Geddes, and then we have different businesses exploring site spaces in Southwest, in the South Avenue area. We are very happy, to have the community coming up, and changing that mindset that I was talking about earlier, from doing things under the table to competing on top of the table, so they have a fair chance like everybody else. Those are things that we need to continue to work with, and I would love to be part of that.
Please join me in thanking So that is our program for today. The primary election is June 27th. Early voting starts on June 17th. Make sure you all have a plan to vote. Make sure your friends and family all have a plan to vote. If you learned something new and interesting today, make sure you tell your friends and family about it. If you heard from a candidate today who you really like and really hope they get elected, obviously vote for them. But we got a couple weeks before the election. Call them up, email them, ask them what they need, what you can do to help, knock some doors for them. If we all do that, that'll really make a difference for our community. Thanks.
And if there's any questions that you should have, you can call us 3 and all the candidates that were here
Just
today.
as a constituent, political stuff aside.
Yes, exactly.
We serve you.
And we have cards on the back. If there was a question that you didn't get answered that you want us to reach out to the candidates about for you, please write it down on one of the cards. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.